Hello guys and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me Vulcan. Today I have for you game 2 out of 2 games between Chickendew and YueJin in round 2 of the second European tournament. Today we are going to be seeing Odon, and on the Allied side Chickendew has chosen the 2nd Infantry. On the Axis side YueJin is playing the 12th SS-Panzer. So this is another old school matchup, very similar to the last. In the last game, YueJin rolled over Chickendew with the Guards Armoured versus the 21st Panzer, but now we're going to see the 2nd Infantry against the 12th SS. And the 2nd Infantry, they have fantastic infantry, they've got great artillery, they've got a decent air force. All things combined can do very, very well. They have M4s in Phase A that makes them a force to be reckoned with, and those can be supported by M7DDs, which are the 1200 meter range HE units. Then on the side of the 12th SS, there is the Boiter Cromwell in Phase A. There is also the potential for the Boiter Firefly, but whether or not either of these will be utilised remains to be seen. I do expect the Boiter Cromwell to come out to play just because it is such a useful unit throughout the game on a map such as this, where you have enough open ground to really utilise the range. So, for example, in this area, sitting behind the town, you could really use a Boiter Cromwell very well to push into the town if that was something that YueJin would like to try. It's very unlikely that the YueJin's going to go for the town though, since his infantry availability is not as great, and neither is the infantry quality. So YueJin will be looking for space on the top and bottom side of the map, I would expect. Chickendew will definitely secure the town and then look for other ways to find ground. Let's have a look at the units that YueJin has placed down. So on the top side it's going to be a Speertroop, followed up by a Pak 38 and the Panzergrenadier there with a 259. Further down we see another 259, and on the main road it's going to be 2 more 259s, with a Panzer Grenadier with another 2 Panzer Grenadiers. Those aren't in half tracks though. Command 2 AT guns. So a triple AT start for YueJin, which is certainly an interesting one. Probably expecting to bump into the M4s early, since they can be very oppressive from the 2nd Infantry. On the side of Chickendew, we have 2 units of Ranger Assaults heading straight for that town, which is to be expected. They're going to be backed up by a Ranger Marauder and a Ranger Leader. There's going to be an AT gun following that up, with most likely a Ranger Support. Ranger Assault all the way at the back there is going to be placed at the front, and an M3 Command is going to be following those in order to provide command. I don't know if the M3 Command is going to go to the town, or it'll probably be the Infantry Command that goes to the town. The M3 Command will accompany the AT gun to the top side. Further down though, we see 2 more units of Ranger Assaults, Ranger Leader and the Ranger Marauders. And on the very bottom side, it's actually going to be a mortar at the start with the AT gun and a Ranger Support. Now I'm surprised to see the mortar all the way down here. I'm not entirely sure what Chickendew has intended for that mortar. But without adequate support, it's not really going to be doing too much. The main thing with a mortar is that you'd have units go aggressive, and then as they spot units, you hit them with the mortar or you cover them with smoke. But since it's unlikely that Chickendew is going to be pushing on the bottom side with an AT gun and a single MG support, I'm not quite sure what the mortar's doing there, but I guess we will find out as the game gets underway. Another thing I'm curious about is YueJin's reliance on these 259s. I'm assuming that he wants to cut up a lot of the elite infantry early on without having to directly engage it with his own infantry. So those are things that we're going to have to keep an eye on. So an even spread for YueJin. He doesn't really have this area covered very well, but just going to be plonking a 259 there for the time being. Those 259s, they are only 35 points at the end of the day, same cost as a Panzer Grenadier squad, so having them there and just defending against any salient is actually quite good use of that vehicle. But on Chickendew's side of things, yeah, this mortar is going to be pushing to this bottom side, and it will be able to cover the bottom side of the town definitely won't be helping any units push on the very bottom. Pack 38 looking to kill off an infantry squad before they unload, but wasn't able to do so. Chickendew just gets those units in there in time and does actually manage to take control of these buildings as well, which is pretty important. Stops YueJin from putting a Panzer Grenadier squad there and being annoying, putting fire into the town. So both players taking up their positions, 50-50, no really real engagement just yet. Spade through spotting the Ranger supports, but we'll probably not want to continue that engagement, and it's unlikely that this Pack 38 will want to move into that tree line either, since Ranger support will definitely tear them apart very quickly. I like what Chickendew's doing here. He's kept his M1 gun behind the tree line. That may bait YueJin to use his 259 to engage the Ranger support and then get killed by the AT gun, but maybe YueJin is smarter than that and will not take the bait. But for now, things just evened out at the start and just waiting for either player to really make a move. Chickendew just pressing up some infantry to maybe find an extra % or two, but I don't really feel that this force is in any position to really get aggressive because there's a severe lack of armor on the side of Chickendew. He has himself sort of backed up by AT guns, but nothing really that's mobile, and therefore pushing is going to be much more difficult. On the side of YueJin, he can't push because he doesn't have anything to deal with the AT guns, and that just leaves him in a very large predicament. But if he can see the 6-pounder on the top side, he can deal with it with the 257 that he has on the way. Can't see it yet, but must be convinced that there is a unit defending on that top side and will be preparing for a little push up there. Panzergren's now engaging the Ranger support. Half track going to be moving up and trying to get involved, but the Ranger support's rightly moved back. Chickendew doesn't want to leave those there for longer than he has to. 259 coming in for a go as well. Now going to back off as the 60mm mortar does open up. So it does look like the intention of this 60mm mortar was to help any infantry probe the bottom side. But I do still have to question its effectiveness when you aren't really creating a large supported push on one side of the map. An M7DD has been brought in. That's currently sitting way back though. Likely looking to help with any 1,200 meter range engagements on the top side against infantry that does reveal itself. For example, these Panzer Grenadiers engaging the Ranger supports. But that is going to be swinging in favour of YueJin due to the use of this mortar. And that will allow those Panzer Grenadiers to do a little bit of damage. But let's keep an eye on the entire map as I am still waiting for that decisive play. 257 now coming in to the bottom side, and so far it just looks like both players will end up trading with artillery before any significant pushes come through. But that's okay, because it does mean that in the late game it's going to get pretty damn intense, that's for sure. Now with this Ranger support pinned down, the Pack 38 is free to move into the tree line. If it is lucky, it may find the time to get a shot onto the M7DD. Can YueJin see the M7DD? He can indeed. So the Pack 38 going to be trying to find the shot on target. Does have 2-star veterancy, 5 base accuracy. Misses the first shot. Will have a chance to find the second. Engine destroyed. That M7's long gone. There we go. Third shot finds the kill. Now YueJin just trying to counter battery the 60mm mortar on the bottom side as it tries to pin the Panzer Grenadiers that have already backed off. So we're in an interesting position where both players really don't want to get aggressive, but I think it mainly comes down to the fact that Chickendew hasn't invested in an M4 yet, which in my opinion is really surprising. The M4DDs in Phase A are just so damn good. They can rip apart the 12th SS if a Boy to Firefly is not purchased. Boy to Cromwell has come in for YueJin on the top side. That's going to be trying to help pin any infantry that makes a push, or even find the kill onto the M1 gun, which is still hidden behind that tree line. Chickendew not giving the game away, that's for sure. Unless he already has and YueJin knows it's there. Now Panzergren's going to be trying to make some ground. But nothing significant's really going to come from the moves that either player are making yet. What needs to happen for the 2nd Infantry is the M4 comes in and supports the push onto these Panzer Grenadiers and 259s on the bottom or top. And for YueJin, he just needs to get the Boy to Cromwell, Boy to Firefly combination going and try and make some ground with that. The Boy to Cromwell coming in onto that top side is the start of something like that. And considering YueJin's not really under much pressure, he might even be able to save for the Boy to Sherman, or the Boy to Firefly. But a nice engagement by the Ranger Assaults onto the Panzer Grenadiers absolutely melt the Panzer Grenadiers, force them to surrender. On the bottom side though, 257 hitting the Ranger supports quite accurately indeed. So just small skirmishes here and there. It's like YueJin's convinced there's an AT gun there. Gonna now be pressing the speed troop quite aggressively towards it. There's a 107mm mortar, and wow, that actually almost hit the Pak-38 directly. And because it did so, it's forcing YueJin to move the Pak-38 back, but YueJin's unwittingly moving back into the fire of the 107mm mortar. So he takes another hit there, and this 257 is also being affected as well. This M1 gun was moved forwards at just the right time, takes out the 259, removes that as a threat, but the Boy to Cromwell does find the shot onto the M1 gun. So YueJin was probably thinking to himself that he was right at this point. If he didn't know that that 6-pounder M1 gun was there, then this was just a very good play here from YueJin to try and find that. Used his spidey senses to figure out that an AT gun would be there and waiting. And that is a very, very impressive thing in Steel Division. It just shows you how much YueJin knows his stuff. The new Panzer Grenadier is going to be coming in. And that's going to be basically replacing the one that died to the Ranger Assaults. Won't be making that mistake again. If it sits in the single tree line there, then as the Ranger Assaults come out, they shouldn't be able to get into the 100-meter range before they get pinned by the MGs. So that will be something that YueJin tries for. 257, still hitting the Ranger supports. Boy to Cromwell, that's going to be trying to pin these Ranger supports on the top side. And so far, again, not too much going on. But if YueJin starts to chip into the elite infantry that Chickendew has, he won't have to worry about it in the late game, and that could be quite an advantage for him to work with, because he'll need infantry himself to support his big tanks that he'll be able to bring in. M4DD though has finally arrived down here. That's going to be using its 50 cal to pin the Panzer Grenadiers, but infantry needs to be accompanying this in towards the orchard, and those Ranger supports won't be, as the 257 does find the kill. 259 now moving up. That's going to find some shots onto the Ranger supports. Boy to Cromwell also getting aggressive. Due to the positioning of the speed troop, the M1 gun is very unlikely to ambush these two units, but Chickendew may go for it anyway, and it may have a chance to get off at least one shot before it finds itself pinned. A +1 has been found for YueJin. That will most likely be due to the small salient on the top and bottom side. As we can see, 107mm mortar did just kill off a Pak-38, and well, M5 gun has been brought in since we've reached phase B. Actually, that's probably just the one that he can get in phase A anyway, and that cleaned up the 259. And with the 259 out of the equation, the Boy to Cromwell is going to have to back off, since he does not want to lose that to the 1200 meter range AT gun. One thing I am surprised about is Chickendew allowing these Panzer Grenadiers to open up with their machine guns. It probably would have only taken a little bit of a step forwards there to get the flamethrowers working. YueJin's going to be rolling over his half-track, trying to swing that well in favour of the Panzer Grenadiers. Very tactical that game this. Very small moves here and there. They're trying to work up to a big play. So now the Panzerwerfer are arriving. YueJin's had enough of this 6-pounder, I would assume. Got the M5 gun to get through as well. It's time for the Panzerwerfer to do its job. Another Panzergren coming in. Due to it being phase B, YueJin won't be worried about his infantry availability so much at this moment in time. But we'll have to make sure that he is trading effectively, consistently throughout the game against Chickendew. Otherwise, he may find himself at an infantry deficit, which would be really, really difficult for his tanks in the late game. So now the Pak-38 going to be moving forwards. That's engaging at 700 meter range. That's going to give the Pak-38 13 AP. But was not successful in finding the kill. So it's going to be forced to fall back as the main gun and 50 cal open up onto it. And that is now down to a 3 health AT gun. So the trouble with those Pak-38s is they really do struggle to penetrate the front armour of an M4, and that just demonstrates that. And that's why these M4s can be so damn oppressive in the early game. So I'm surprised that we haven't seen another one of these just yet. Or that we didn't see at least like one of them at the start of the game, and then more come in to reinforce later on. Since his half-track's trying to make a move, Ranger Marauders trying to get in range with the bazooka. The half-track now backing off, utilising the smoke as cover. Chickendew does not want to reveal his Ranger Marauders if he doesn't have to. I think there he just doesn't want the half-track to break through and find a salient. Maybe find the Ranger Mortar or something and just be a nuisance. That would be annoying. Another Panzerwerfer coming in though for YueJin, since he has plenty of time on his hands, neither player really being aggressive. He can start purchasing quite a lot of artillery, and that's going to allow him to set up for a great push in the mid to late game. Now at this moment in time, he does still have a worse economy than his opponent on the side of YueJin. 70 points in phase A, 115 in phase B, is always 5 lower than the second. But his vehicles moving into phase C will definitely get a lot better than the second infantry, and that may be one thing that YueJin is hoping to take advantage of in order to make his ground and win this game. Because currently, only 32 points in favour of YueJin, and really not many kills at all. So we are just seeing more and more units come onto the field, and that just sets us up for a very, very epic engagement that I am really, really looking forward to. And it looks to be set on either the bottom or top side, as that is where the points are being invested. YueJin really not putting too much pressure towards this town. Just going to probe it though with the Pioneer squad here by the looks of things, and the Panzer Grenadiers. He's actually going to put the Panzerwerfer strike towards the town. It goes and targets directly onto the church there, but those initial shots really didn't hit the mark. Can this second shots do the damage? They can. They end up pinning down the rest of the forces as the Panzergrens roll on up. TGMC though does have shots down the road, may help pin the Panzer Grenadiers, and well, would you look at that, a xylophone there just in time to prevent 2 of the squads making it in, but the Pioneers may just make it. And if the Pioneers do make it, it's going to give YueJin the opportunity to micro these effectively to take out the Ranger assaults. Now the 259, that's going to be pushing a little bit further up. It's going to come under fire from the CGMC, but will be able to do a ton of damage to infantry at close range, and that is exactly what's happening here. The half-track mortar also pinning those down. Pioneers still trying to make ground, Ranger leader will have to fall back. But if these Ranger assaults do get pinned at this point, then they will surrender. And it looks like one of the units of Chickendew did surrender here. Ranger assaults just trying to make it out. Pioneer's going to be throwing their grenade. Not quite, actually. They didn't actually throw the grenade, and they got themselves pinned down. So, Ranger assault surviving for the time being. However, Panzerwerfer is coming in, and will be looking for the pin onto the Ranger assaults to get his infantry that little bit more ground. P-47 Thunderbolt coming in with the 15 HE power bomb, blows up the Opel Blitz munition, was looking to blow up the Panzerwerfer and mortar half-track with that, but a lovely little strike there from Chickendew is going to take away the limited supply of the 12th SS and make it difficult for YueJin to continue to resupply these Panzerwerfers. Because one thing that the 12th SS do struggle with is supply. They can get one in Phase A, they can get a couple in Phase B, but other than that, it's unlikely that YueJin has any more. So, killing those supplies and focusing on that may be a really good strategy to stop these Panzerwerfers from being a problem. Because they are a pretty hard counter to the AT guns that Chickendew has used so far. But the Ranger assaults, they're just holding strong. But these Pioneers, they managed to get a grenade over. And that Ranger assault squad just gets deleted. +1 now for YueJin, has been for a little while. 53% territory lead. Certainly starting to make some moves as units build up on both sides. It's just been such a passive early game, and now we're really seeing some more intense engagements. A nice constructed push from YueJin into the town. Nicely repelled briefly by the xylophone. Hasn't given away too much ground, but just enough for YueJin to make the score. Now the mortar being marked on this bottom side, maybe for an airstrike in the future. The Ranger supports finding themselves pinned down here is not very helpful. And it does look like the command infantry did find themselves taken out. Now another unit of Panzer Grenadiers joining the fray. Could actually be another unit of Pioneers. And Thunderbolt comes in to get the bombing strike onto the 257, but was not successful in doing so. Panzerwerfer is going to be looking for the counter battery onto the 107mm mortar, but completely misses its shots. Doesn't have line of sight at all, so it makes it very difficult for the Panzerwerfer to be accurate. Nice AA here from Chickendew. Completely denies the ME-109 that just came in. We are starting to see some movement here as the Ranger supports do get pinned on this bottom side. 257 is going to be hitting his own troops. That's because the 257 was forced to fall back, and I think YueJin just wanted to make sure that the Ranger supports were pinned there. But with the half-track getting shot by the M4, surely the 259 is not going to be trying to make a push. Pack 38 takes a shot at the CGMC. Is not successful in getting the kill. P47 comes in to bomb the Pack 38 and is going to be successful in cleaning that up. So really nice job. Whitman is now on the field, and that new Pioneer squad or two joining the fray in the town has really solidified that position for YueJin. So going to continue with that +1 for the time being, and that's something that Chickendew can't really allow. Because even though there is 20 minutes left on the clock, YueJin's division just gets stronger into Phase C, whereas the 2nd Infantry will find it harder and harder to deal with the units that YueJin starts bringing in, like Panther Ds and the Panther Gs and so on. Although it looks like YueJin focuses on Whitman in Phase B rather than the Panthers. So there we go. But here we see the Panzerwerfer firing away once again. Really wants to get rid of this 107mm mortar, but look at those shots. Completely going around the mortar crew. This little mortar crew just sitting there pretty in the mid. Counting their blessings. Very amusing indeed. This ME-109 though, just going to be chilling in the back line. There's another one further up on the top. Can't really go aggressive and strafe enemy targets because of the amount of AA that Chickendew has invested in, but they will prevent Chickendew from trying any airstrikes for the time being. So now Whitman cleans up one of the infantry squads in the field, and YueJin's given himself a very strong position up here. Like, controlling this tree line all the way down into the town is a really nice position for YueJin to be in, because if Chickendew wants to push this top side now, he's got to deal with any units that can utilize this orchard. And you can see how that line of sight is just so easily manipulated. And that's something that YueJin can do with Whitman very well to stop any aggressive forces. Panzerwerfer does find the kill onto the M5 gun. That's exactly what YueJin would have liked to see. Looks like the Panzerschreck there though, that's going to go down. M4A1 comes up. Now going to be trying to kill off the Pioneers. We'll have to be careful there's no Panzer Grenadiers here though, because otherwise that Panzerfaust could be pretty scary. But Whitman taking out another unit of infantry. +1 still sits in favour of YueJin. So it seems as though we're in for a long one, because a +1 does not finish the game very quickly, and although Chickendew is on the back foot, it seems as though this is a very hard nut to crack. Like, having allowed YueJin to just continue to bring in reinforcements without actually trading any units at all just puts him in such a bad position moving into the late game, and that Panzerwerfer very nicely takes out that AT gun. And now YueJin going to be getting aggressive with a Panzer Grenadier on that top side. M10 destroyer is on its way, and these M10 destroyers can do a lot of damage, but all YueJin really needs to do is invest in a Jagdpanzer, and he's pretty much countered everything that Chickendew can do. So it'd be interesting to see if one of those is brought in. At the moment, YueJin just investing in the good old Tigers. Tried and tested. A lot of people do find the Tigers lackluster, I would agree. But just in general, they can do a lot of damage due to their high veterancy and high accuracy. Double Thunderbolt does try to find some bombing strikes onto the Panzergrens and 259 on the bottom side, as Chickendew has brought in some infantry to try and make a push. And it looks like he is going to be trying to get aggressive down here against a limited force from YueJin. The Tiger E is behind the town, Whitman's on the top side of the map. So this is definitely a vulnerability for YueJin at this moment. If the 259 gets taken out, for example, by the Ranger Marauders, there's no other AP units for YueJin to deal with the M4 unless Chickendew allows a Panzerfaust to hit it, which would be Chickendew's mistake. Up on this top side, Panzergrens are going to be moving in here, engaging the Ranger supports. Those Ranger supports are so dire at close range, it's unbelievable. They have 3 HE, which is even worse than the 5 HE of the Panzer Grenadiers. Verbal though, that's actually going to end up stopping the P38 for the time being. Not going to kill it, and neither is the MU-109. But that MU-109 going to be falling into the AA net. M4 takes out a half-track. This push coming through very hard down here. Looks like the MU-109 just went a little bit too far. P-47 Thunderbolt takes that out. For YueJin on the top side, he does manage to clean up the M3 command that was there. And that basically leaves him with a nice salient that's pushing a +2 now. Whitman, well, that's not Whitman, that's just a Tiger E. Going to be looking for the shot onto the M4. Does find a crew wound. Now going to be looking for the kill. Can he find it? Yes, he can. And that basically disintegrates Chickendew's chances of making this push work, because the Tiger, without any threat from AP vehicles like tanks, has a lot to show against enemy infantry in terms of high HE on its main gun and its 3 machine guns. So all YueJin really needs to do now, move forward his own infantry, discover enemy infantry, and then pin and take them out. And he's probably even going to use the mobile wagon aggressively here to take out the Ranger support. But, oh, a nasty strike here. Both of the M10s, they went down to the Panzerwerfer by the looks of things. Because Whitman wasn't even in range. It must have been the Werframen. Yeah, the Werframen did the work. Panzerwerfer is still reloading. So, 25 HE gets the job done. That's just one vulnerability of those M10s. Them being open top. The fact that they have limited armor, 25 HE, is a lot. And it can kill those tanks. And it did. So, slowly but surely, YueJin is finding engagements that are falling in his favour. And now, even though both were reinforcing themselves for a very long time towards the start of the game, we start to see the difference, as YueJin definitely has many more units on the map than Chickendew at this moment in time. 2 units of Panzer Grenadiers coming in to reinforce here. They will be the front line, supporting the Tiger E and Kretschmar as the push continues. So now Chickendew's best bet is to try and ambush any tanks with M5 guns, but due to the amount of rocket artillery that YueJin has, it's unlikely that's going to succeed. However, the M5 gun we did just see knock out Whitman in the first shot, and that is why people don't like Tigers. It was a 14 AP shot at 1,200 meter range, penetrated Whitman straight up, no prisoners taken. But now YueJin making a counter push on the bottom side. Smart move, because generally when your opponent has made a push, they won't have too much defending it afterward. The Kretschmar is going to have to be very careful here, as the M1 gun and now this M5 gun are covering this bottom side. Infantry that Chickendew has left behind is slowly getting eaten up by the machine guns of YueJin. And we can just see the 12th SS-Panzer starting to get into full swing as they bring in these Panzer IVs, these 2-star Panzer IVs as reinforcements. They can be extremely strong. Chickendew, he's going to be making a push for the town. Looks like Xylophone's going to be opening up here. A little bit too far forwards though. Didn't really pin too much. But the Ducks may still make it into the town due to themselves being armoured. And that will open up an engagement with these Pioneers. One thing that will be a worry though for Chickendew is that his rifles will suffer at the hands of Pioneers quite badly. And this P38 is not really going to be doing too much. There is 2 mobile wagons on this bottom side, and that is more than enough to try and clean up some of these aircraft. The ME-109 G6R6 is able to take advantage and even shoots one down. But that is a lovely strike there from YueJin. Utilizes the Werframen to smash into these rifles. M4A1 gets pinned down and forced back as well. M5 gun on the top side also forced back. So now 62% territory here for YueJin. Going to win the game in 10 minutes if this count continues. M5 gun taking a cheeky shot at the Panzergrens. Rifles are probably revealing those due to being so close. But just in general, YueJin in a very, very strong position here. And not too much Chickendew can do about it. I mentioned AT guns being a thing, but he is going to have a limited amount of those and probably already is on his last legs when it comes to that. He's lost his 2 M10s. They both come in the AT tab as well, which further reduces the amount of AT availability. And if there is no AT availability left on the division, then things just go from bad to worse. So Chickendew, all he can really rely on is YueJin making some mistakes. And there is potential for that. He could maybe lose his Tiger E and Panzer IV to this M5 gun, for example. And then this bottom side would be open again to maybe just an M4 rolling through with a few infantry squads. But at the same time, we did just see multiple rifles try and get into this town and get forced back. And that is really not good for Chickendew, as he will be suffering on infantry availability, just like YueJin will into the late game. But he generally wants to have the infantry advantage in order to win the game. M5 gun finds a kill onto the Panzer IV. Nicely done. Takes the engagement with the M4A1, but that got weapon jammed. As he backed off, the Panzer IV moved just enough forwards for the M5 gun to open up. And that was nicely done there by Chickendew. So starting to pick apart the key units in YueJin's lineup is definitely a way in which YueJin can, or Chickendew can come back and maybe grab some more ground for himself. But since there is a timer of 7 minutes and 50 seconds, Chickendew is going to have to get a move on if he wants to make back the ground. Xylophone's going to hit the Panzer Grenadiers, and that should remove a little bit of a salient, take things back to a +2 rather than a +3. With this Verflammen, that's rocking down to this bottom side. Only a matter of time until that's in range to hit the M5 gun here. And due to that M5 gun being so close to the M1 gun, I would not be surprised to see one of these Verflammen rockets go astray and kill both of them in one strike. Tiger E does manage to find line of sight onto the M15 CGMC without being in line of sight of the M5 gun itself, so that was a nice little move there from YueJin. But as we can see, driver wounded onto this Panzer IV as it tries to push through the trees there. Might manage to get away, but a little bit of a way to go. Does manage to break line of sight. Here comes the Verflammen. Targets the M5 gun, ends up killing an M1 gun as well. Exactly as expected. So now the bottom side is completely open. The M4A1 is falling back. The Tiger E can freely fire at that all day long. Going to be finding the kill. Now just the infantry needs to start moving forwards. Chickendew going to be trying to focus on the Air Force. Does manage to absolutely annihilate the ME-109, but loses a P-38 Lightning to YueJin. So technically a 1-for-1 trade. And that strike, although it forced back the Boyd Cromwell and Befehl Panther, it hasn't seemed to have really stopped too much, because they're just going to recover and go again. P-38 Lightning does end up going down as well, a second one. M5 gun did take out the Boyd Cromwell. So I found the Boyd Cromwell kill due to that airstrike, so not the end of the world. A little bit more effective than I gave it credit for. Oh, nice kill though on the bottom. Ranger Marauders attempted to kill the Tiger, got killed themselves. Then the M5 gun comes in, cleans that up. Now the Tigers are starting to wane, but due to it being very late into the game, the economy is there, and YueJin just going to be investing into another Tiger. And the Befehl Panther still alive on the top side. The thing is, even if the Panther gets killed, the Tiger gets killed, the Panzer IV gets killed, pushing through this amount of infantry with probably a very limited amount of infantry availability on the side of 2nd Infantry now, it's just pretty much game over. YueJin is going to continue to rack up those points, and we'll be looking for a cleanup. Maybe he can get the Befehl Panther into a position to do a lot of damage in the center here. will want to definitely take out this M5 gun, get revenge for it killing his Tigers. But a very conservative playstyle here from YueJin in this game. I really liked at the start his sort of intuition, working out that there was an AT gun up here. And that basically allowed him to play around that. Yes, he lost his 259, but Boyd's Cromwell and the infantry ended up doing the job, which gave him that little bit of extra gun to find the +1. Then, for the rest of the game, just made little decisive pushes elsewhere, for example into the town, which allowed him to solidify that with pioneers. And it's all just added up to this now 62% territory lead. Really well done by YueJin. Smart plays throughout. And, well, Chickendew, he tried his best, but the big blow was really when both of those M10s died to the Werframmen. That hurt. Although, at that point, I'm not even sure if those would have been enough to save the day. But M4DD, it is going to take out the Panzer IV. I think the M4DDs could have had a better showing throughout this game. You can see that Chickendew does have a lot of them available. He's got more coming in. The fact that these didn't show up in the early game really surprised me against the 12th SS. Because the 12th SS, if they don't have the Boy to Firefly, really don't have much to deal with an M4. Like, yes, maybe bringing in the M4s may have forced YueJin to purchase the Boy to Firefly, but that is okay. You can play around it. And especially considering you can have two M4s on the field, you can push two places at once. The Boy to Firefly can't be in two places at once. So that's something that I was surprised that Chickendew did not take advantage of. But the M5 gun has died now. So the Befehl Panther, the Tiger, the Panzer IV are all pushing very aggressively. And they do have some serious veterancy between them. So this Panzer IV, for example, will be able to clean up these M4s if it gets into line of sight. Befehl Panther and Tiger are going to be engaging this Bofors. That's going to get taken out very easily. Thunderbolt's going to try and knock back this Panther. Doesn't manage to hit the bomb. Due to the mobile wagons causing the stress, the bomb actually went off target. Those Panzer Grenadiers, though, you would not want to be them as they get opened upon by 3 30 cals and 3 50 cals, as well as the main guns of all of those. So can this Panzer IV find a shot on this bottom side? Currently no. The M4 is just getting into a position to maybe try and ambush these as they take fire from artillery. I would expect Chickendew will wait for this to reload, try and hit them again with another xylophone strike, and then push aggressively with the M4s. And there is potential for that to just work and clean up all of those units. But then where does he go from there? Unfortunately, there's only 1 minute left on the clock, and YueJin is sitting on 2,350 points. Here go the M4s. First one moves up is going to be smoked off. What's Chickendew up to here? It looks like he's going to line up his M4s and just drive through the smoke straight into the face of these units. This could really backfire. Okay, the M4s, are they going to get the first shot off? They do. Bounces off the front of the Tiger though, and Panzer IV-H kills the M4DD. That's going to stress out the other two M4s. M4 trades with the Tiger. Befehl Panther though forces both of them back. And this Panzer IV-H is just going to happily move towards them both now. An interesting play there from Chickendew, utilising the smoke. Would have been nicer though for those M4s to be spread out a little bit more, so that if one of them did go down, it didn't stress out the other one so much, which is exactly what happened. But after a very long time and the full 40 minutes, that is going to be game, and YueJin wins by conquest score. So congratulations to him. One thing, this was a very different game to normal. Generally, we see either one player sort of dominating in the early game and then getting pushed back in the late game, or one player just dominating the other and then the game ends early. But in this case, it seemed like both were really sort of feeling out each other's defenses and trying to sort of find a way to break through, which was just very, very interesting to watch. And like seeing the constructed plays that YueJin made to break down Chickendew's defenses was really, really nice. So hopefully you guys picked up some tips for when you get into those sort of stalemates. Make sure you bring in all of the units you need to make a concise and solid push, and then just sort of pull that off, in theory. So you use like Panzerwerfer, like YueJin did, to hit the town. You then have your infantry just run onto it whilst being supported by whatever vehicles or tanks you have nearby. And that should be enough to get you in there. One thing I would say, just don't overinvest in the infantry. You saw YueJin did not do so. He had just enough pioneers there to hold back any attacks that were made, and of course still could rely on his artillery, his Panzerwerfer, and he also had the Werframmen. And that Werframmen did absolute work throughout this game. So 3,040 kills to 1,985 losses for YueJin. If we jump over to the kills, the M4DD didn't do fantastic in the early game. I was surprised it came in so late. P47 killed the Pak-38, and I think that was just Chickendew's problem, was that he wasn't aggressive early on, which was when he really needed to be. Because if the Firefly wasn't there, he had such an advantage on the map, which is why YueJin was forced to invest in so many Pak-38s, because that was pretty much all he had in order to counter the M4s early on, and even those were having a hard time at doing so. So that was like the chance that Chickendew really had to solidify a strong position, which would then be much harder for YueJin to break down, since YueJin would have then had to sort of push across the open if, for example, Chickendew controlled the town and the forest areas on the top and bottom side. But these M5 guns, they did start to pay themselves off. One of them took out Whitman before it got killed by the artillery strike. M5 gun took out the Panzer IV, like this one took out the Boys of Cromwell, this one took out the Tiger E. Like, these M5 guns were doing well. They're only like 100 points apiece, I think, and killing off these vehicles is certainly more than that. M4 taking out Kretschmar was nice, and this one moving through the smoke at the end and killing the Tiger E was pretty awesome to watch, but in the end didn't matter. Panzerwerfer finds a kill onto the Xylophone in the end, as well as the M5 guns. That Panzerwerfer was absolutely crucial to break through and break down a lot of the AT defense that Chickendew had. So was the Werframmen though, and it took out that M10. Whitman took out a bunch of infantry, but nothing much more. This Tiger, however, killed a couple of Shermans and the CGMC. You can see the tanks didn't really do too much. It was more just this artillery. Panzerwerfers, Werframmens, really, really nicely used in order to make those holes in the defences and push through with that infantry and tank support. So, pretty long game that definitely showed us some different style gameplay to usual. So I really enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys did as well. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.